Hello, welcome to People, Planet, Profit, a podcast by EarthUP, where we aim to help businesses and people like you simplify sustainability. EarthUP CEO Stephen Bay will be joined by special guests to break down some of today's biggest topics affecting the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profits. What does a sick building do to your health? Why should corporations be invested in biodiversity? How can I help create better working conditions and happier employees at my company? We'll cover these questions and so much more in a candid conversation about reshaping work culture into a landscape that prioritizes people and planet without sacrificing profit. Our next episode starts right now.
Hey, it's Stephen Bay, CEO of EarthUP. I'm excited about today's episode as we connect sports and sustainability with one of my favorite teams, the Seattle Seahawks. We're taking a look at CSR in action at the stadium and venue levels with our guest, Christy Briggs. Christy is the logistics and sustainability manager for Lumen Field in the Seattle Seahawks. Under her leadership, they have averaged 94% waste diversion, were awarded the EPA's Business Partner of the Year, and have done a lot of really cool things in sustainability. Welcome to the show, Christy. Thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome.
You want to start with telling us a little bit about your background, how you got to where you are right now?
So I have a really crazy background, and it was not in sustainability. I actually have worked in school systems. I've been an assistant administrator, and then I went back to school to finish my degree in sports management. Sports has always been kind of a passion. When I was young, I was going to be a trainer. Didn't go that path, but I got my degree in sports management, and I started at the stadium about 8 years ago working with the food and beverage company. It was just an opening for an office manager position, took it to get my foot in the door. Then a position with the team side came open in their facility department, and I took that position, was an admin position. And through that, I kind of got involved with the sustainability team and the diversion team. And when our director moved on to another job, they asked me to take on the role of sustainability, kind of just being our champion. And I took it and ran. And if you had said even 8 years ago when I started at the stadium that I would be here talking to you about sustainability and sports, I would have chuckled because it was not in my radar. But here I am, and I love talking about it. I love what we do, and I'm excited for what we get to do in the future.
Well, congrats on that. So you were a sustainability champion inside the organization. You're one of the people talking about it, and that's kind of why they said, hey, look, this role opened up and we'd love you to take ownership of it.
Yeah, and as I do that, I just kind of create it, and it becomes bigger and more. And one of the things I'm really excited about is we're really looking at what we do at the practice facility too.
I imagine it also adds a little bit of fun element to it that it's a professional football team, the Seahawks, that you get to really be around that type of culture along with being in sustainability. It seems like a dream job.
Yeah, it really kind of is a dream job.
What does a day in the life of Christy look like?
Ooh, a day in the life could be anything, and it changes every day. I don't think I have a day that is exactly the same. So one of my other roles is as logistics manager and the conversion team. So coming up in the end of the month, we have a Seahawk game on one day and a Sounder game on the next. And so looking at how do we get that building changed over between the two games? That kind of pulls me and takes me in different places. And then with sustainability, it's doing things like this and telling our fans what we do. It's education, it's being out in the community, it's educating our employees. Sometimes I forget that not everyone understands what we do and why we do it. So just even having those one-on-one conversations with our staff. And then research. I am the person that the facility directors at both buildings can come to and say, hey, we're looking at upgrading, or we need to replace our HVAC system. How do we do that and in a way that is sustainable? And are there technologies out there that you'd like to put forward as we go forward with this? So kind of being involved in those pieces as well to help us get better. We're a 20-year-old building. We're at that point where we're going to start replacing things. And when we built it 20 years ago, the goal was to be sustainable and have an efficient building. But what was efficient 20 years ago isn't efficient anymore.
So you kind of have your finger in energy efficiency, waste management in a sense, like where does the food go? You also deal with the supply chains, like where you guys get your resources from?
Just on a very minimal basis at this point, but we are looking at the whole, digging in deeper with the whole picture. So again, my role has kind of evolved, and we never had a person that was really focused on sustainability. It was part of the facility department. It was really important to the organization. I mean, if you look at over the years of the 20 years the building's been open and how efficient and how our waste diversion went from 3% in 2006, diverting 3% of our trash, to we average 94% diversion now. That's a big swing. And so it was important, but there was never one person that was kind of that spearheading. And now that I am, we're getting to take a look at all kinds of other ways we can do things. I don't know building systems in depth, but I know and am involved in the industry and hear and know the different places where we can get resources. And so I can take that time, research so that the facility directors can continue to run these buildings and make sure that we're ready to go for our fans and our players.
So 3% to 94% waste diversion in how many years?
It was in about 10 years. Well, I'd say it was really about 8 years where we hit, and then we've been at that steady 94, 93, 94. We hit a peak of 97% about 4 years ago. So that was a really exciting hit. Of course, then everybody wants to stay there. And I'm hitting over 90% is hard and not something a lot of places do. It's pretty excited when we hit 94 every year. COVID year was really a hard one because a lot of different things came into play, and then not having events. So not having the large capacity of waste. And so you have to drill in even more to where your waste is going.
So, and when you say waste diversion, what do you specifically mean?
Only, we'd say 5 to 6% of our waste goes to the landfill. A large percentage of it is compost and then recycling. And we do single stream recycling in the stadiums. We have a graph that shows the increase, and there's a big jump. And one of those big jumps was when we went to single stream recycling. I say a lot of our success is from our operations. So if you go to the stands on a Seahawk game day or a Sounder game day, you are going to get items that are either compostable or recyclable. There's very little in our stadium that go into landfill. Chip bags, which when a company finally gets a good compostable or recyclable chip bag, they are going to be the heroes. And then candy wrappers. Those are the only things in our stadium that are not recyclable or compostable. And so because of that, we've removed all landfill cans. We have no landfill cans in the stadium on the front facing side. We have a landfill bin. We have landfill in the back of house, but not on the front of house, because I don't know about you, but I go up to the 3 cans or the 6 cans in some places where you're, separating out newspaper. And I'm like, I do this for a living and I'm not quite sure where this is supposed to go. And so by removing that guessing game, it helps us keep our waste streams clean, and it helps keep our diversion rate up because we're just not bringing things in that need to go to the landfill. So if you go to the stands on a Seahawk game day or a Sounder game day, you are going to get items that are either compostable or recyclable. There's very little in our stadium that go into landfill.
So how do you get the chip bags and candy wrappers to be separated from the rest if there's not a landfill trash container?
So we do some of the sorting on the back end, and then with every provider, there's a certain percentage of contamination, as they would call it, that they sort out then at the backside. Between those two things, the chip bags and the candy wrappers do not put us over that percentage, especially with the stuff that we can sort out when we sort in the back of house. If you go to some other stadiums, I've visited several stadiums that do really well on their diversion, but they have 20 people that are sorting every piece of trash to be able to get to 70% diversion. And because of the operations and the fact that we are in Seattle and we have better infrastructure, we have 4 people that sort post game. One of the things that we would really encourage fans to do is leave their garbage at their seats. So if you go into the bowl and look around, there are no waste receptacles in the bowl proper anywhere. By having fans leave it at their seat, our pickers can go through and they can put them in the right stream. They're trained, they know what stream it goes into. So it takes away the step of needing to do it at that back end.
I always usher my trash out, and I don't think I will do that anymore. I'll have to I'll tell everybody around me too, just throw your trash on the ground leave it here, actually save money by not sending more trash to the landfill.
Yes, correct. Because the landfill does cost more, partly because we don't want people sending things to landfill. Landfill causes all kinds of issues with carbon and all of the things that the landfill is bad for. The cost is higher. And we've seen that. We've had a couple hiccups where our compactor got contaminated. And so then they have to take it to a landfill. And it is up to 3 times as much as sending it to compost. So it can be pricier on the front end. And people look at that sticker shock of buying a compostable container, a compostable plate compared to a styrofoam cup or the like. But if they really looked at it at the full scope, the sticker shock on the back end for what you send to landfill is pretty high.
Yep. And the reason I asked that is just because it makes so much sense. People think sustainability is like a nice to do, but it's really a good business initiative. These are things that you can do that make a huge impact on the environment, but also make a big impact on your bottom line.
The sticker shock sometimes and the initial onset of installing a new system, putting in the solar panel system can seem pretty unattainable and pretty far-fetched and far-reaching. But when you look at the positive things for the earth and then the energy efficiency or the water efficiency, or again, paying 3 times less to send things to the compost facility versus the landfill, it really does make fiscal sense as well.
But what happens when somebody does throw a compostable straw in a recycling container? Is that something that is it a problem for? I don't even know. Is it something that's a problem for these recycling facilities? Is it something that they're used to dealing with?
They deal with it. Ideally, we get those sorted out prior to them getting to the recycling facility. Those are the little things that we're trying to sort out in that back of house area. It's even more a problem with the cups, and all of our cups are compostable. And so what we did at the stadium, and try it sometime, go to one of our recycle cans and you cannot fit any of our compostable cups in the hole. We retrofitted them. I order every year a stack of these circles that we stick on the cans that make the hole just a tiny bit smaller so the compostable cups won't fit. The cans, the bottles, they will, but the cups won't. You'll walk by them and they'll have 10 cups stacked out because somebody did it and then the next person did it. But it's really easy then for our housekeeping team or myself to grab them and stick them into the compost can that's right next to the recycle can.
And the cups say compostable pretty large on there. I bought a few beers at Seahawks Stadium. They do say compostable pretty large on the cups. When you talk with other facilities managers from other stadiums, what's the general conversation that you guys have?
So we're part of an organization called Green Sports Alliance, which was formed in the Seattle area. Seahawks, Mariners, Sounders were founding members that brought sports teams together saying, sustainability is important. How do we do this? Let's make each other better. And I also say in sports, we're super competitive. That's what our business is. And so you bring a bunch of sports teams together that are trying to be sustainable, and we're making each other better by, in essence, competing with each other, but also sharing best practices. So it's kind of that great balance of sharing and competing. And we talk about waste, we talk about water, we talk about energy efficiency. When we have our summit, we bring in speakers doing the whole range of cool things to make us more energy efficient, water efficient. I get asked to talk about waste a lot. I'm the garbage lady because we have figured out how to do it, and we are consistently above, that high marker. Early on, I just thought we were cool and we were good, and we still are. But as I visit these other places, I've realized we are so blessed to have the infrastructure in Seattle. And so talking with folks in other cities, Atlanta, Detroit, kind of trying to help them talk through how could they take a couple of the things that we do operationally and implement them within what they are working with, because there's give and take. If your compost facility is 150 miles away, well, the hauling to there now has created a different issue. It's the emissions and all the things from that. And so is it a benefit? And so you have to look at that. And sometimes it's the power of the group to push on vendors and suppliers. Chip bags is one of those things, really kind of saying, this is important. We sell, X amount of your things over the course of a season. Find a better option. Get us a better option. And the power that the platform of sports and entertainment has is just great for that side, but also then what we can teach our fans. Because if you look at our environmental challenges that we have, they seem insurmountable and they seem really big. And if you're a general Seahawks fan and you're coming in, you're not wanting to think about sustainability. That's not why you're at Lumen Field. You're there to watch the Seahawks win. And then two, if you really take the time to think about it, you're like, well, what can I do? You figure we have 68,000 fans, maybe 10,000 of them change every game. So you have your season ticket holders, but they bring friends. Say we have 200,000 people over the season, new people we get to touch, and then our fans that follow on social media is another. And if each one of those people took one little thing that they learned that we do and implemented it in their own homes or their own businesses, that to me even has a bigger impact than us going net zero or some other things our facility is doing. Yes, it can make a big impact, but the impact that our fans then can take from doing just the little things. And so we've really put an emphasis on trying to figure out how to educate our fans. During Earth Week, we did a whole campaign on social media, and we chose different things that we do at the stadium and kind of twisted it and turned it and said, here's how you can implement that in your home. No meat Mondays and waste-free Wednesday, and just these little things, and saying, if you just pick one, we all make a play for sustainability.
If you look at an organization or you look at a facility and you actually start looking where the most emissions come from, more emissions are generated from residential buildings than all commercial buildings in the United States, right? More emissions generated from passenger vehicles versus the other forms of transportation. Right. So if you do have the ability to educate not just fans, but your employees, and then your employees can educate fans, we all have that one moment in our lives, the aha moment, where it's like, oh, I get it now. And then you start to see things slightly different. And if you can take those lessons learned to how you get to the stadium. Are you busing to the stadium? When you're busing to the stadium, then you don't have to worry about having a designated driver home, right? So there's benefits to all of these different things. And I couldn't agree with you more. The average house in the United States generates 48 metric tons of CO2 per year. If you look at the 200,000 fans that you talked about, it's going to make a significant impact if you can reduce 1 metric ton from each of those households versus what you can actually do in the stadium. I strongly agree with you there. And it's nice to see companies are starting to realize that too. You also make your fans more engaged with you, right? So there's a bunch of business benefits to really engage your employees.
We didn't start out with having compostable everything like we do now. It was 1 or 2 items. And then it just grew as we built on what we were doing. And I think organizations, any organization, your mom and pop store or the Microsofts of the world, the big organizations, they can take that one thing. I've talked to other organizations that aren't in sports, and they're saying, hey, you're doing this. What are you doing? How are you doing it? And we started small. And now we have a great program, but it was small steps, one at a time, built on each other, that got us to where we're at. And everybody can do that. And the resources now to do that are so much greater than when we started.
And in 5 years, they'll be even greater. And so as companies align with the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, do you guys focus on those to the UN SDGs?
We have looked through them, and we, as we can, we align. We haven't fully committed to saying this is our guiding principles, but it is definitely one of the areas that informs us and helps drive our initiatives.
It's just great to have some universal language that when you are talking with other stadiums or other people in the industry, just in general, it could be another facilities team or whatever it is, just understanding how your decisions impact social and environmental issues. Locally and around the world too. So I do love though that a lot of your food choices are local, a lot of your beer choices are local. And that's why I was talking about the UN Sustainability Development Goals, because you're supporting local communities, and being able to align and actually track how you're supporting local communities, I think is important.
That is one of our foundational pieces, is that local, for a lot of reasons, the social, supporting our neighborhoods, but also if we're getting food that's coming from down the street or from a farm that's just over Lake Washington, it's not coming from Florida and it's not traveling. And so we save in a whole lot of ways while building into our community. So that's very important. And we do it on the flip side too. We talk about our diversion, and we've been talking about the compost and the recycle. But another thing that we do when at all possible is when we have food that's donatable, which isn't as often as food waste, because there's a lot of things once you cook it and all of these about holding. But in 2019 and a couple years prior, we donated over 7 tons of food over the course of the year. And last year, in the wake of COVID, we obviously had started the Sounder season and we were in the midst of the Dragon season. So we had food on site. And so as we went month by month through that process and food was coming close to its life, we donated that to, the number wasn't near as high because we weren't, having 68,000 fans once a week. But food donations, again, is another way that we're really trying to be conscious of our food waste. So then it's truly not being wasted. It's going and providing for others that don't have those options.
Looking at the next 5-10 years, what are some of the things that you're trying to address? What are some of the biggest impacts you have right now? You're like, in 5 years, I would love to eliminate this or reduce this by 80%. What are some of your guys' goals?
If I were setting our goals, and we're kind of in that state right now where I'm kind of formulating, and then it goes to that next step of, management and moving it up, I really want to focus on water, because I think that is one of the things that we could make an impact. Looking at water harvesting, water reclamation. We're in Washington. A lot of water comes out of the sky, and we have big surfaces on our roofs and places to catch that water. And again, it's those start small and grow that I want to do. We have a building out on the north end, and looking at capturing the water that comes off of that and using it for our irrigation system. We have very little irrigation on the property. Just that Muckleshoot Plaza is really the only place we have grass there at the north end and some flower pots. So I feel like that's one of those areas we can start small, really kind of go, okay, it's working, and then grow it and really make an impact on our water savings.
It makes a lot of sense. Well, now it's time for the quick hitter section that we ask all of our guests. So I'm going to jump into this, Christy. Okay. Quick, short answers on your part. So what gets you up in the morning?
Life. I love just everything about life. My faith is another thing that drives that. Just being able to live and be around people and really kind of enrich other people's lives.
Awesome. What's your breakfast beverage when you get up?
Coffee. It's got to be coffee.
Black coffee? You black? Nice.
Coffee.
Nice. Are there any books that you would recommend about sports and sustainability?
Green Sports Alliance is a great place to start. Their website. If you're looking at sustainability in sports, they have great articles and links to other resources.
What's one thing you would recommend people do in their daily routine that's actually surprisingly pretty sustainable? What's that one thing? For
me, my one thing was getting rid of the wipes in my life, like Clorox wipes, face wipes. There's other versions that don't go in the landfill.
That's a great one. Is there any new eco-friendly technology that you're excited about?
The purity coating that we're putting on our banners. I think that's pretty cool technology.
Very cool. Thank you, Christy. It was a pleasure to have you on here. Learned a ton and really just enjoyed meeting you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
And that's our episode. If you'd like more info about what Christy is doing in sports and sustainability, visit greensportsalliance.org and be sure to check out our follow-up episode with Christy coming soon. EarthUp is now live. To jump into the platform and start making change at home and work, go to app.earthup.eco. Become an early adopter and help us create an easier, more effective, and more fun platform for our community. Thank you so much for listening in and for your support. If you like our show, hit that subscribe button, tell a friend, and rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about EarthUp and our journey to simplifying sustainability for companies and communities, visit earthup.eco and follow EarthUp on LinkedIn.